The others just constantly believe that they were capable enough to do whatever they wanted to do, and that's the main determinant factor. Is you need to brainwash yourself is stage one.
A little bit of delusion.
A little bit of delusion. I always say to the new guys that I talk to, 33% of your time should be spent at a table to where you're listening. 32% of the time should be spent at a table where you're talking because you're learning how to present and teach and sell. And then the other 33% should be spent alone. But he said some of the most successful people that he's met, the owner of like billion-dollar like restaurant franchises will go outside and pick up the litter from outside the restaurant. And that's the 5% that makes a difference. It's the clean front of the shop that people don't talk about. It's just that extra little bit of effort. And so for us, why I feel like we've done so well word of mouth is like, I will do that extra bit for all of our clients.
Hey, welcome guys to this episode of 1% Better Every Day. I'm your host Samkelo, and today I had the exciting opportunity to interview someone I'm extremely fond of. He's all the way from Ireland, spends his time all over the world. His name is James Galligan, and some of you may be familiar with him. He's the founder of A Players Club, which is a club of members which can be found everywhere in the world, including here in South Africa. I myself have had many times where I've bumped into people who have nothing to do with the online space but have come across James Galligan as well as A Players Club here in South Africa. And as I said, a guy I'm extremely fond of. I've had the great pleasure of working with him at Educate, Iman Gaji's company, and I watched him grow literally from an SDR who could barely speak English that was very clear. And I watched him grow from an SDR to a closer, to a head closer, and thereafter go on and make incredible moves in the online space. I cannot tell you how excited I am to have him here in my hometown in Zululand, or Zulu Natal rather. And more so, I cannot tell you how excited I am to have had this conversation with him. If you are watching this episode, you're gonna hear his personal journey, his belief systems, how he conducts himself on a day-by-day basis, and more so some of the moves that he's making once again with his members club, A Players Club. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'm thrilled to say this is our first episode, and I hope you enjoy it. So, Mr. James Galligan, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yep, finally in Cape Town, or not Cape Town, Durban, but
You're
South Africa.
You're in Zululand, my brother.
Zululand.
Yeah.
I remember you speaking Zulu for the first time when we were in Maryland. You were like,
The
clicking.
Yeah,
and I was like, what is this?
Yeah. So how are you enjoying the weather so far?
Weather in Cape Town was bad, windy. Weather in Durban, good. So I'm happy. Obviously, you have the wedding tomorrow, so it's great to have a wedding with good weather. It's not good when it's bad weather. So
yeah,
it's my first ever wedding ever, actually. I'm going to.
Way.
So, yeah.
So you flew all the way from
Amsterdam.
Were in Amsterdam, yeah.
Where I'm living with my girlfriend right now. So, obviously you have to. For me, my values are like I want to prioritize or give attention to love and business at the same time, and not neglect one and give full attention to the other. I think we kind of think that if I have a business, I have to be 100% business and nothing else. Whereas I feel like you can there's 24 hours in a day, so you can give 12 to 6.
Nice balance,
you
basically.
can give. There's time to give to both. So I think people think it's either black or white when there is grey.
And you seem to be covering as much between fitness, business, socializing, and also obviously your girlfriend. But obviously we're going to touch on all of those things as we go. I think the last time I saw you in person was in Maryland, USA. And that would have been about a year and a half ago or so.
At least.
Yeah?
At least.
And so much has changed since then.
A lot has changed, bro. And it's like when you said it to me there earlier on, it's like you really forget to zoom out and be like, okay, damn, I've come far. Because you're constantly, you leave one rat race in regards to 9 to 5, then you get into another rat race that's actually more endless and more of a dark hole and a black hole than the one that you were in before, because it's endless and it's full of materialism to an extent, and there's always younger people earning more money and people doing different things and different new business models, and it's all very distracting and very overwhelming. So if you're not grounded, you can get lost very, very easily.
So I want to give people an opportunity to get to know you a bit more. For anyone listening, largely the South African audience also, but you're a young guy from Ireland.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Ireland?
The very centre of Ireland. So
the very center.
Like if I could equivalent it, Like obviously you have Safia, you have Cape Town, you have Joburg, you have Durban. Whatever area you feel like is the most, I guess.
Center. What's that for us?
Well, not even center. From where I'm from, it's like I think there was a ranking of the best counties within our country, and I think our county was like 31st. It's like it's not high up at all.
Yeah.
And so look, I grew up with great people around me and good friends who have good morals and values, and we had a good friend group. But in regards to the area, in regards to opportunity, it was limited.
So that's what's exciting about your story, which is exactly what I want us to cover over the next couple of 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
I want to know, how does a young James Galligan from the 31st, ranked the 31st county in Ireland, how does he end up in this position that he's in now, where he's traveling all over the world, he's meeting some of the top influencers of our time, working with them, mentored by some of the biggest in the game. Like, how did that young guy from Ireland kind of make that transition?
Yeah, I think people would see the outcome now and just want the outcome. And in the end of the day, there was like, it's been 3 years since the very beginning of the journey. And I could sit here and lie to everyone and say it's all skill, but a lot of it's luck. Being in the right room at the right time, getting into Iman's team when there was only 3 or 4 sales reps in the team, growing there, networking there, going on trips there, getting branding done with the best in the game. Like as in like you go on a trip and you see Alex doing his thing with Iman, and then you can just replicate it directly. And you're like, that helps, and the credibility helps. And like, but how I got into that position was, I think it's you have to be delusional to an extent. To when I was 18 in a pallet yard in Ireland, doing like 9 to 12 hour shifts in a pallet yard, and every single day.
What's a pilot?
A pallet yard. So
pallet
like
yard.
Pallets.
Okay.
They used to come in broken. We used to fix them with a machine gun. We used to like just be in repeat for like 8 hours. It was like ridiculous, and it taught me hard work and grit for sure. But I also got to listen to podcasts and trainings and Jordan Belfort's sales school and I was kind of thinking like I want to get into sales, but I don't know. Like I didn't know about remote sales. I was like, sales. Okay, then I started applying to sales jobs in Ireland, because in Ireland when you apply for a sales job you get a sales car. You get a car with the company. So you get like a salary, which could be like 26, 27k a year, but you get a company car, which is like a 2-seater car to go and do your work in. If it's door to door, if it's to pubs or if it's to establishments, etc. You'd be driving around. So I was like, okay, I don't want to spend money in a car because that ties me down, gets me into debt. I was like, okay, how can I get money plus a car sales job? Okay, let's do that. That was first step. And then naturally I got into sales, and then I started watching the online space kind of stuff like Iman. Was like, I didn't even know what he was doing. But then I seen SDR, hiring an SDR in January 2023 or December 2022. And I applied, and you know how many applicants there were with Iman's company. There was
Thousands.
there was thousands, bro. I think Paul said there was 15,000 applicants for sales positions over
It's been said it's harder to get into educate or working for Iman than it is to get into Harvard.
Yeah. And, I didn't have sales experience and I got hired. And looking back on that, the lesson to take from that, I took from that for business, is like you hire off who, not what. And many people I see on their stories are like, hire an experienced sales rep, hire an experienced sales rep, hire an experienced sales rep. And what they don't realize is that experienced sales reps comes with their own flaws. And what you should truly become good at instead is actually training and being a good manager and seeing and being able to train the right people. And so I look for more coachability and willingness to learn. And to an extent, it's like if someone's experienced, they probably have bad habits. And if someone comes to you who's new but coachable, it's like they can learn quicker than the other people have to unlearn, because them habits are harder to unlearn. So I think what Paul did a great job at was he hired for people who could learn quickly and that didn't have a past, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't realize it at the time. You just think, oh, they like me or whatever. But it was culture. It was culture and buy into the cause. And if you can create that within your own company, you can hire and you can create the best talent. Because if you hire the best talent, you're going to pay a lot of money. But if you can create good talent within your ecosystem, that's where you make so much money and you save yourself at the very beginning. So I think for me, kind of bringing it all back to one, it's a combination of my parents always telling me that anything was possible. So step one would be tricking your brain into believing that no matter how bad the odds are stacked against you, that you can do it, right? And that was the biggest gift that I was given. That's even a bigger gift than financially. Any even daddy's money kids that I've talked to who've gone on to do their own thing versus kids who just got handed money and just threw it away. The others just constantly believe that they were capable enough to do whatever they wanted to do, and that's the main determinant factor. Is you need to brainwash yourself is stage one.
A little bit of delusion.
A little bit of delusion. I always say to the new guys that I talk to, bro, stage one is not the business model. Stage one is brainwash. You need to like brainwash yourself fucking hours a day of certain content to have your brain think a certain way, because if you're in the business model but you don't think a certain way, you're not going to make it. So it was step one, brainwash. Step two was the model, which was sales for me at the time. And then I think people always look to do like, what am I good at the very beginning? And I was definitely good at sales, but I was better at organizing things, which kind of is my business right now, A Players, which is organizing things. But I think I didn't try to cut corners, which was one of my greatest assets to me looking back, is I didn't try to go from SDR to closer. I didn't even want to. I just wanted to be the best SDR. And when I was a closer, I didn't try to be a team manager. I just wanted to be the best closer. I wanted to lead people. And I think too many people are focused on the next step before becoming the best at the current step. And I think there was one time Paul brought me onto a meeting. It was a team leadership meeting. There was like him and the leaders in the company at the time. And I was only an SDR. And people were like, oh, why is James in this meeting, etc. And he was like, well, because he's the best SDR. And he feel like he's taken on more responsibility than others, than outside of an SDR. And I never asked for anything. I just wanted to give. And I think that's something that people need to take on. So it's the mindset, it's the skill set, and it's the focus on the skill set, not wanting to advance too quickly.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, but just to give people a little bit more of context about that, but when your first experience in the company, I think I've seen it on one of your reels, your first experience with Paul, literally going from that, and I'm going to have you explain it a bit more, going from that first experience to then becoming one of the leaders in the company over time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was to do with ego. So you can have the self-delusion, but then I got to a point when I got hired to when I was doing very well numbers-wise within the company and regarding to new sets and all this sort of stuff. And I got very arrogant in regards to like out in the channels saying like, boom, new set, boom, new clothes, etc. And one thing that they don't like in good companies is someone who just wants to outshine everybody else, not feeding to anybody else, but like instead they just self-glorify themselves. And so I remember just being in the shower and getting a Zoom link sent to me from Max saying, hop on, bro. And I was like, it's like 6 o'clock. And I was like, what's going on? And I hopped onto the meeting and Paul was there and JJ was there. And Paul gratefully tore me apart for like 20 minutes. And like I had tears coming from my eyes, bro. I was like, but ever since that day, it humbled me like a lot. And it made me realize that I'm nothing compared to anyone really. Like everyone has their own journey, but you just work hard, but do it in silence and do it gracefully. And that taught me a lot of things in regards to how to treat people and how to lead teams, etc. Just that one moment within itself. But I also know he had the same conversation with multiple other people, and they took it to heart. Yeah. They took offense to it, and they actually built a grudge against him. I said, hey, he doesn't like me. I'm actually perfect the way I am, and I don't know where they are right now. And so it's like you can take it in both ways. This constructive criticism, I think you should always seek it, and you should always take it gracefully and see where you can improve on, no matter who you're talking to.
Having a coachable spirit.
100%.
Yeah, and that was like the beginning of like your rise, really, because from then on, that's when you took on more responsibility within the company.
Yeah, it was. Coachability is everything. It's just we're in a world where we all think we deserve more than we do, and if we really take a step back and we actually zoom out to the real world, we realize that even if you wanted to go to college to get a job where you were going to earn 6,000 to 8,000 a month, like that would take like decades to do. And it's like, well, just have some patience then and coachability and understanding that if someone's done it before you and they're talking to you, they know more than you. So just listen instead of being so arrogant. So it's definitely a lesson most young guys need to take on. It's just being more humble and coachable.
Yeah. So now that you got into a closing position, and I think at one stage you were literally leading the sales team, a pod.
Well, yeah, I was leading pods and stuff like that,
Yeah. What led you to then kind of take the next step?
To go into my own company?
Yeah, I mean, I want you to tell us a bit more about like, I know you mentioned a bit about it, like always having been good at organizing things and how that's now kind of become the main thing you're doing with A players, but like, what spurred that decision to take that next step?
I think I had no other choice. I got to a stage within Iman's company to where I wasn't growing anymore, and I earned good money, but I didn't feel like I was adding things to my repertoire to go on and be successful in my own thing. And I love Iman, but I never wanted to be Iman's sales guy. I never wanted to be like in his shadow. But everything that I've done since is definitely credible to him. But I just never wanted to be his sales guy and just known for kind of living on him. So I kind of made the decision to go out and do my own thing. I was doing fractional sales management for a while with like John and a couple of private clients. And I think, as I was saying to you in regards to the merch, so I think when most people get wrong when they start merch is they try to sell it straight away. Whereas I found that with merch, if you simply wear it and you get it to the stage where people are kind of frustrated to like, well, I see this, but I don't know where I can get it.
Yeah.
It's like, it just creates that natural demand. And so I didn't start my own thing until I kind of seen, okay, the market has a demand for, or I'm naturally getting asked to organize a dinner here, or I'm naturally already am saying, hey, a couple of us guys should go here and go on this trip, or a couple of us guys should try get a private session with this entrepreneur, etc. And so I think when you find yourself naturally doing things that people are asking you for, that's when you should be like, okay, well, how do I monetize this correctly? And what's saying with the merch, it's like, you know, you can go out and you can try sell, or you can take a small hit at the very beginning, create good merch, wear it yourself, give it out to people, etc. Create the demand to where it's like, that's really cool, but like, I've never seen that, like, where can I buy that? And then once you get that question, I think that's when you're like, okay, this needs to go to market now. And so I was doing them things naturally. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna set up this community, because community, I'll bring people together, I'll, you know, point them in the right direction, I'll bring in these guest speakers to talk to them, etc. And I started off with like $47 a month. Why? Was it worth more? 100%. And like most communities that I know charge 8,000 or 10,000 for membership or whatever. I personally can't. I don't want to charge that simply because I don't feel like it's worth to pay 8,000 or 10,000 for nearly anything really. I think it's kind of overpriced. But I think it's super important for guys at the beginning starting their own thing is you have to sacrifice your time at the very, very beginning for the money. And so I tell people who want to start their own business at the very beginning, it's like you have to maximize the time that you're giving away at the very beginning until you have no more time to give, to when somebody else comes to ask you for your time, you naturally have to charge more than what you were charging the person before, or else it's not worth your time, right? And so I was charging $47 a month for like 50 people at the very, very beginning, like last year, March maybe, right? And then naturally more started wanting to come on, the demand increased. And so when the demand increased, the price increased because my efforts would have to raise for me to handle that community, or bring in higher level guest speakers, or add structure, add an EA, or add a sales rep, etc., add content to the business. So as demand increased, I raised the prices. And one thing that people need to know about community is you can't scale community aggressively, because what does it lose? It loses its culture. It loses its effect. Because if no one knows anybody, then it's not a community. And so what most do wrong with starting communities is they open the floodgates way too early. And we still to this day only let on 3 a week of members. And like, is the demand there? Could we turn on ads and put 4,000 or 5,000 a month?
Bro, you guys have a whole wait list.
Bro, if we turned on ads, we could do like, I've no doubt do like 250 to 500K a month, like zero, like doubt.
By the way, just with that said, I mean, I think I told you before, I might have even sent you a picture of the guy, didn't I?
Yeah.
Literally, I was in Johannesburg and I'm having a chat with this guy, and I don't know how it came about, but he knows you, he knows of A players. And that's been my experience with what you've been building. Like, so many people know about it, and this is just in South Africa, but like without ads.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Without ads. I think that's very interesting, because I think most guys rely on ads. And you hear figures in the online space and they're like, oh, I'm doing 100K a month. But then they refuse to tell you they're spending 25, 30,000 a month on ads.
Yeah.
And then you're giving percentage to closures, and then they're building that funnel. Like, their margins are very, very tight. Whereas, like, you know, we can do very good figures a month and it's all organic. We might run 1K a month retargeting ads, reels, not even with a CT on them, just to remind people we exist. That's it. And I think to build a business that simply just relies on word of mouth or organic content is not easy, and that's why I'd never coach. Like if someone came to me and said, "Can you coach me in how to scale in a community?" I'd actually say no, because it takes so long to where they're going to be like, "Oh, it's not worth paying this guy," because it actually takes a year. It takes a year because you have to build goodwill, you have to over deliver, you have to sell yourself for less than what you're worth, and no one's willing to do that. So I actually couldn't teach it what we do with A players, and I think our over deliverance has worked out because you've heard about it in South Africa. I also had an experience to where a guy I now know was in Austria in a hotel, and he was taking a sales call, and some young kid came up to him and was like, yeah, I'm in this community called A Players, and he was an Irish guy who was in Austria in a hotel, and he messaged me after saying, "Hey, I just heard about you in a random hotel in Austria. You must be doing something good."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Fuck, like that's really really cool." So I think the fact that you can build a product that relies on word of mouth, people say, "Oh, you shouldn't rely on word of mouth," but if you can build something that does, that is the foundations to a great company that can function with ads on top of it.
I mean, just to add to that, I mean, I'm already thinking of like so many different experiences. People I've met in person in South Africa, and then obviously when it comes to events that happen even here in South Africa, some of your guys, members of A Players, are literally here, either visiting or they live here.
Yeah.
And then I think in my time as a sales manager also, I've literally come across some of your members.
Yeah.
So like, how did you go from, and it sounds like it's been about a year and a couple of months.
A year and a
But
month,
you've got people all over the world.
Yeah.
All organic, no ads.
Yeah. There's definitely structure and strategy behind it to an extent. It's like, you know, I traveled a lot. Like my ad spend is travel. My ad spend is I'm gonna go and host a dinner somewhere, and I'm gonna invite 25 guys, and some of them mightn't be in A Players, some of them might be, and they'll communicate, and then they'll go home and they'll be at home and they'll realize, I just loved having the conversations I had today, and then they'll reach out and then they'll be like, I want to join. And I think that's our marketing is the feeling itself, because network can't be sold, it needs to be realized.
I love that.
Because you can't sell, oh, you need to be surrounded by this guy, because everyone hears it all the time. It needs to be a spark moment when someone's like, I need to be around better people. I need to be the person who's listening in the room, not talking in the room. Because if you're the one that's always talking at the table, you're the one who's giving the most value. And if you're constantly at them tables, like you can't really grow. And so Ty Lopez actually has a rule, a 33% rule, towards 33% of your time should be spent at a table to where you're listening. 32% of the time should be spent at a table where you're talking, because you're learning how to present and teach and sell. And then the other 33% should be spent alone, thinking. And when I heard that, I was like, that's really, really good, because thinking time was also underrated, and that's something I haven't taken for myself. And so I think that is very important to be in all types of rooms, but especially the ones where, and you've been in them rooms as well, where we have people who are doing millions a year. And the way, I don't think it's necessarily what they say, but it's how they say it and it's how they act. That's what's important about them, the people neglect.
I don't know if it was you or if I'd heard it from someone else. I think it may have been you actually. One of your videos spoke about the experience when Iman came into a club and he literally spent
like
an obscene amount of money.
In London.
And I think I mentioned something similar to you. It's like you think something is big or great up until you see someone else do that as just like a by the way thing.
Yeah, and if you're not in a by the way situation, like at least once every 3 or 4 months, you're not in the right rooms, because most of the time it's not your skill set that's stopping you from going to the next level, it's your mindset around the skill set. And so it's like you're capable of doing it, but you just don't believe enough to give yourself access to the opportunity to do it. And so when you're in these rooms to where a man comes in and he spends 30k or 20k in between dinner and club in London, and you're like, wait. You're like, that was what I was supposed to earn if I went to college and came out after 4 years in debt. And he just spent it on one night in bottles.
1 night,
and a restaurant. And you're like, there's something else here that I need to realize. And when you go on that constant journey of curiosity, and you're always curious, no matter what room you're in. Like, even when I'm driving around in Cape Town or Durban, I'm curious. I'm like, I was actually thinking on the way here, I seen unfortunately, like the houses that were like mud house, or like they were shacks. And I was like, how? Like, I'm like, how can they create something for them? Like I'm like, how can I get them out of the situation? Like I'm thinking, if I was in their shoes, like what would I do to do something for myself based on what they know? And I'm always thinking, like I'm always curious to how certain people get out of certain situations or why they act in certain ways, and I think that always be curious, ABC, is very, very important skill set to have, and always be asking yourself how or why.
Yeah. I mean, I love some of what you've just spoken about because, I mean, you yourself are a young guy from Ireland.
Yeah.
I keep saying young guy because I don't know if a lot of people probably don't know this, but how old are you?
21.
21. Yeah. I mean, in the online space, it's largely young.
Yeah.
But I think you're on like the younger end of the young.
Yeah, it's maybe. And as we always see every single day, there's always someone younger coming up. But I think you just have to stay grounded and realize everyone has their own journey, and maybe they have more access to stuff we didn't have access to at the very beginning. But I wouldn't trade it for the world, and I don't think people should envy other people's situations at all.
But I wanna touch on these things. One of them is that you yourself are a young guy from a small town in Ireland, ranked 31st, and you had some disadvantages in kind of coming into the online space. If I remember correctly, Irish people have a thick accent.
Very.
Yeah?
Is mine still thick?
It's still thick,
Okay.
but I think I've grown accustomed to it.
Okay,
And I
gotcha.
know you put in a lot of work to
Yeah.
kind of become a little bit more understandable.
Yeah.
But like, for a lot of people, things like that literally become an obstacle. If I remember correctly, you and a couple of the other Irish guys used to do sessions together to kind of practice
our language.
But like you can speak to that of kind of getting out of that situation where like small town expectations of salary is a certain amount and getting out into the world. I mean, I don't even want to ask, but when was the last time you've been in Ireland?
I actually just went back for my granddad's birthday recently, in start of May, and so that's the first time I've been back this year. So last 5-6 months, so I go back twice a year maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because every time I see you, you're either in the US, Spain, well, anywhere in Europe really, and now you're here in South Africa.
Yeah, it's a lot of traveling. But I think, as you said at the very beginning, we used to have sessions with the Irish sales guys, training our vocabulary, reading poems, etc. And a lot of it was to do with needing an identity shift. And so I think where you come from, you can see it as a disadvantage, but I also see it as an advantage towards like, something's hard to do, then that means that not many do it. And so like if I can do it, then that puts me like levels ahead of all my competition. And so we used to sit there reading poems to each other in just Zoom rooms. And I don't know if it's paid off. Like I think Irish people are lucky in one way because Americans love Irish people, and Irish people have good charm. They don't have really thick European accents, which is like an advantage of ours. So I would say like, yeah, we were disadvantaged, but I also think that we were lucky because Irish are liked by people, and that's our advantage. We have good game, we have good charisma.
I feel like we have a lot in common in that sense.
100%.
South Africans
South Africa
and Irish people
100% have the most in common. I think South Africans, Irish, and Australian, and the US are like the most similar countries. I think.
Yeah. So I mean, touching on that, I mean, I'm from South Africa, obviously.
Yeah.
But I hear a lot of people talk about like how there's no jobs, and of course there aren't many job opportunities in South Africa. But then I live in this world where it's like there's an abundance of work, and that's in the online space, and it's like exposure. That's all it is, in my opinion, because very few South Africans are putting themselves out there and going out into the online space and seeking opportunities to be a part of networks like yourself, as well as just taking on SDR roles and etc. And so it really is an exposure thing.
It's exposure. People don't understand that if you simply shake more hands and have more conversations, you have more opportunities. It's a logical thing. Like I always say to people, if you're in the sauna, you need to be talking to the person beside you in the sauna. Like you never know who you can be talking to. There's been so many, I can't even, like there's been so many conversations where I just had random conversations in the street, or I'd go up to somebody in a restaurant. Like I was in Austria and we had a ski trip, and I mistakenly took a guy for a waiter. And I was like, hey brother, can we just get like knives and forks over here? And he was like, I don't work here. And I was like, fuck, I'm so sorry. And I was like, you look great though. And when I was leaving, I started talking to him. And turns out he owned like multiple, like I think it's like cotton something beach clubs across all of Europe. It's like, well, if I just didn't stop to have that single conversation, he now invites us to go to these multiple different bits. Like, you don't realize, and people are so focused on being in their own four walls. How do I sharpen my skill set? It's not skill set, it's exposure. Like, I know people who are way less advantaged skill set wise, but who are in the right room who get the better opportunities. So it's more that you need to focus on what like events can I attend, or like what restaurants can I go to where they hang out. So like, where does your opportunities of where you want to go to, where do they go to the gym, where do they eat at restaurants, and that's where you should be getting to more so, I think, than doing your skill set, because it doesn't matter if you have the skill set but no exposure. So hand in hand balance yet again.
I love that story. It actually, just as I'm sitting here, I'm smiling because it reminded me of my own experience.
Yeah.
But I started coming to this gym, it would have been like 2-3 years ago. One day I bumped into a guy who's become like a very good friend now.
Yeah.
But he's the one. I mean, I used to watch YouTube. I obviously used to use YouTube, but I never really followed Iman on Instagram.
Yeah.
I wasn't too much in the online space.
Yeah.
I was myself in my own little bubble.
Yeah.
But from just talking to a guy in the sauna, he mentioned Iman Gaji as someone he was aware of, you know? And that literally became my way in learning about the online space and how I ended up getting involved. Just to talk about that kind of power of having conversations.
People, all the ultra wealthy understand it, but we refuse to action it. Like, if you look at PayPal Mafia, for example, there was 23 guys from Silicon Valley working on PayPal. 23, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Reid Hoffman. He's the founder of LinkedIn now, Reid Hoffman. Peter Thiel's a huge founder, completely forget which company I blanked on. Obviously, Elon's gone on to do some amazing things as well. And it's like, they all could have built PayPal individually, but they knew the power of building it together because of exposure, because of access to information, because of network, because of just easy access to people who can do dev work or sales work or marketing work. And if they all worked on it together, you'd rather have a slice of a pie than the whole pea, is the saying. And so we are very, very focused on how to do everything alone when the power isn't in, you don't need to know everything. You need to know someone who knows something. And there's that aspect of it as well. And there's also the aspect of, well, if I know guys in the online space that are hustling their ass off right now, they might only be at 3, 4, 5, 10, 15K a month right now. And you're like, oh, that's not valuable to me, etc., etc. Brother, who knows where that person is going to be in 6 months, a year, 5 years. They could be the owner of one of the biggest XYZ companies or hotels or franchises or has positions or opportunity for you to partner in a new company here. All the greatest business owners and entrepreneurs have found great partners or great people that they can rely on. And I think it's an undervalued thing. And I think I've realized that, and that's why I do what we do, is that how many partners can we bring together?
Yeah. Just a bit on that. So I'm familiar with the A Players Club. You guys have been obviously setting up different partnerships as well as different programs for your members.
Yeah.
Just walk anyone through who's not familiar with what a private members club, I'd say a new age private members club looks like.
Okay.
And why should they join one besides just meeting people?
I'm going to start some beef.
It's a shameless plug here.
I'm going to start some beef. Okay. So I'm going to tell you the difference between us versus why I think everyone else is doing it wrong. And so I think the other members clubs that are simply travel groups are doing it wrong, because the traveling is a great aspect, but it should be an addition, not like a whole thing. Because if you're simply just traveling and you're simply just spending your money, your mindset only needs to shift or the reminder once every now and then. It doesn't need it every month. It doesn't need it even every 3 months. You need a nice trip to reward yourself every 6 months or a year, like a really nice trip. Otherwise, you can go for nice dinners in different areas, etc. Treat yourself, great. But I think that with us, we separate ourselves because we don't have girls in A Players Club. We don't bring girls in our trips. And most communities that I see that bring girls in their trips are OF girls. They're these like models with like hundreds of thousands of followers. And to be honest, I don't want my guys who are building their businesses, number one, distracted by the wrong type of woman, attracting the wrong type of woman. And number two, spending their cash on that woman to be on that trip. It's like, if we're going to go on a trip and the boys want to talk to some girls and they want to do whatever they want to do, feel free, boys. Like, you play ball. but we're not paying for them or we're not going to be distracted by them. Like, I want them to stay grounded in their business and attract the right type of woman instead of being surrounded by ones that look good for your Instagram, but as I have a net negative on themselves. So for me, I never wanted to be a traveling network members club. For me, it's like I wanted to instead create an ecosystem that is the centralization of information for entrepreneurs. So it's like, okay, I'm starting my business. That's stage one. We can help people with that, but like that's a separate entity to members club, right? The members club, you're already making money. So when you already make money, you get to a stage where you need access, opportunity, as we said, exposure. So it's exposure. And then it's also, to an extent, it's like it's business partners. And then I wanted to bring in an education aspect. So there's two types of mentors I believe in. I believe in advisors and mentors. So advisors are guys who are, let's say, 5-10 years ahead. They've been in the game so long, they've made tens of millions, and the number one asset is they've been in the game long enough. They've outlasted. They've gone through the tribulations that most would quit through. And so there's a mindset aspect to that. There's like leadership aspect. There's hiring aspects. There's tangibles there, but they're not necessarily directly applicable to your day-to-day business. And so you need to have mentors, the people who are beside you day by day. That's your network. That's the people who you can go to and say, I have XYZ problem with my SMS outreach or my emails or my e-commerce store. There's a certain click-through rate here is not working on the conversion, etc. They don't want to fucking talk to you about that. So you need to have two types.
Yeah.
So we brought in, like, we've had Jordan Welsh come on, we've had Dan Martell come on, etc. So I wanted to bring in the aspect of, here's a refresher every week or every second week of an entrepreneur who's 15 years ahead of you. Ask them a question about, you know, your current mindset in regards to things. They can pull you out of the short-term mindset. They can have you think like a decamillionaire, centimillionaire, or a billionaire, etc. That's the mindset you need to be in. And then the third aspect is the travel, because the travel is good for bridging that gap between the virtual versus the real life aspect of shaking hands and understanding somebody and knowing their true morals and values and all that sort of good stuff. And then the overarching vision of all of that is like, well, can I make entrepreneurship easier in general? So if I'm doing well, I've got past that initial stage where I've got my business into the market. Now I want to go somewhere where I understand someone who's had taxes done before, because that's neglected. That's not talked about. Like, where do I pay my taxes to, or how do I set up properly, or how do I manage money first of all? Because I know for me, like when I was earning money in the online space, I was earning money. I looked back at my account the next month, I'm like, wait, did I actually earn anything? I'm like, where did it go? And so people don't talk about how to handle money in the online space, or business strategy, or fucking whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be, the information needs to be centralized. And so I think there's a lot of value in business in general for anyone who's listening in any business model.
And so what does that look like for you guys? Do you guys like have a course, or is it
we have like a
weekly
campus, which is like on Notion. It's held on, which will be an app in the future. But we have like our concierge partner. So if anyone's traveling and they want to book a nice hotel for them and the boys, or them and their girlfriend, etc., from $300 or to 100,000 a trip, I don't care what you spend, that's there to kind of like help them know where the best spots to go to in each area are. Then we have Tony Robbins' business partner, who's like our financial tax advisor. We have another actual investment advisor.
I want to make sure I heard that right. You said Tony Robbins.
Yeah, Tony Robbins,
nice.
Accountancy partner in the UK and Ireland and Europe, which is great. And so it's like, I want my guys to come in and not have to think to figure out things outside of their business. And so it's like, if I can bring in the mentors, if I can bring in the partners, and everything's streamlined, their tax is set up, they have long-term mindsets, and their investments are sorted out and they know how to handle their money. That's a lot of the battle of entrepreneurship, is staying in the game long enough or understanding these things. And so I just wanted to give them access to all of that, and I feel like we've done it in a good way, which is, you know, you're in the game too. There's not many, I don't think there's many business models like that out there, which is interesting. I'm not really sure why, but it's working out for us.
Yeah. And I like, you called it starting some beef, but you guys obviously doing it very different than how it's done. But what's next? What do you feel at least is the next level to what we've been seeing?
I don't know if I can give away this.
You know, and give away the sauce.
I don't know. Okay, I'll try broaden the term so I don't give away the direct implementation. You need to think like an ecosystem. So like, I think like Patrick Bet-David has a great example. He has Monect, he has Valuetainment, he has like a media company.
Cigar lounge now.
A cigar lounge. Like, he has different levels or different features for the same ICP. And I think that people think too small within like the day-to-day. They don't think about the long term of how can I build an ecosystem to where my clients never have to leave. So whatever things that you can add on to your service. And so for us, it's like, first of all, I see myself driving into the market with day players, continue expanding that, create huge impact, host monthly dinners in different kind of flagships across Europe. But then my longer term vision, I don't know how to get this away. My longer term vision is to more so make that more accessible to the wider market. I'm not going to say exactly how, because I think I have an idea that most haven't thought about yet, and I'm implementing it at the moment. And so my simple advice would be, when I hear this stuff like 10x online, I don't really, it's not tangible to me, but it really is if you really deep it, if you start ecosystem thinking to how you can build your business, not just day-to-day linear, but like how can I add things onto my business that don't necessarily create more complexity to me, but will make my client more satisfied, or simply just have more partners in business. Like with your network, with your exposure, partner with website development, partner with a software development agency, and have direct referrals to them, or have different benefits to where if you're a client like, oh, I need to add this website to my funnel, etc. You can be like, I have the perfect guy for you, etc. And they're working underneath your umbrella. So you need to have like an umbrella ecosystem kind of brain if you really want to be in the game long, because you're one agency model. If you just stick within that one SMS outreach, like you can get slaughtered tomorrow if that comes down. So you need to think, how can I have different acquisition methods?
Yeah, I love that. Obviously, you were able to explain that without necessarily giving us the source. Yeah.
I don't want to. Yeah. To be honest, I just know there's a lot of snakes out there. To be honest, I've had phone calls with people who've, been like, oh, hey bro, like it's friendly, and oh, how do you do this with your stuff? And I'd give them too much information, and I wouldn't hear from them again, but I'd see it implemented within their own stuff, and I'm like, okay, I need to keep my cards close to my chest a bit more, because there's some people who play dirty in this game, which is fine, but I just don't want to play that way,
Yeah. I'm going to use this to just segue back into like you as an individual. So the name of the show, and you're on the first episode.
Yeah.
The name of the show is called 1% Better Every Day, which I believe you're very familiar with the concept. I think we were both in the same type of culture back in the Paul Daly days. Yeah. But 1% better every day. I want to know, what are you doing every day to become better? What makes James Galligan, and as a guy who's in motion, always growing, always pushing, what is it exactly that you find helps you kind of keep yourself, in top condition to be able to make the moves you make?
That's a great question. My girlfriend was showing me this yesterday. There's a situation online now with a woman called Wizard Liz. And she was with this...
I'm familiar with Wizard Liz, yeah.
And her boyfriend was like Landon, or her husband. I think they got married, actually. And he was this gamer guy who ended up yesterday or 2 days ago creating a fake Snapchat account to text a girl while he was in London to meet up, etc. While he has a wife and she's like 4 months pregnant or whatever. And to me, that just summarizes most men nowadays, that they can't handle lust. I think that's a battle for most men, is they can't discipline themselves. I think it's very sad. I'm like, how are you going to the effort to create fake Snapchat accounts or fake Instagram accounts to go either subscribe to different links or text these different like girls? To me, like my girlfriend never has to worry, because I don't get like, if I see someone online who other people find objectively hot, but they're like extremely revealing, or they're sexy, but like I don't find that, I just don't, it doesn't apply to me. And so when I think of 1% better, I think of discipline. And I just think of simple, like, just clear focus. Like, I want to do my business and I want to have my girlfriend. And if you don't have your girlfriend, you focus on yourself to become good enough to attract a good person into your life. And that's why I also don't really like these different trips that people host with certain levels of women, because it just attracts the wrong person. And I'm very big on energy and on discipline and habits. And for me, 1% better means like, I don't compromise every day on what I actually believe. And I think it can be additional all the time. Like if you think I want to be 1% better, doesn't just mean you have to add something. It also means you have to deny yourself in certain ways, which I think people don't talk about enough. It's like there's many times where I remember I left a man's team. I got an offer for 40k a month to run an OFM agency as a sales manager, and that's great money. And I was earning zero at the time because I just
Must
left.
have been very tempting in that case.
It wasn't. To me, it's not. But I want more people and more men who follow me to get into the gym, focus on themselves, definitely have a relationship with God. Like it's definitely hard to get into it, especially in Europe. I love when we're in the US. I feel God a bit more, and there's churches and
God's country.
It's great, bro. But to deny yourself as a man every day, I feel is 1% better. To humble yourself, to know that you have to stay curious, know that there's always this endless game, that you're always learning, but you're also fulfilled with what you have right now and you're grateful. And so it's denying yourself from opportunities that don't align with yourself. And within that, feeding into yourself in regards to your gym and your food and going. Casey Adams was on recently, and he said there's the 5% rule that people neglect. So they're focused on the 95% of their revenue, their acquisition, their Facebook ads, etc. But he said some of the most successful people that he's met, the owner of like billion-dollar like restaurant franchises, will go outside and they pick up the litter from outside the restaurant. And that's the 5% that makes a difference. It's the clean front of the shop that people don't talk about. It's just that extra little bit of effort. And so for us, why I feel like we've done so well word of mouth is like, I will do that extra bit for all of our clients in regards to I'll fly them out, or I'll give them a free dinner, or send them a hoodie, or we'll write them a personal note, or we'll give them a fucking book, whatever it is. But just that 5%, like they're too focused on just acquisition, but not necessarily how can I give something today from myself that isn't necessarily from the internet worth my time or an ROI, but it's just a good thing to do for somebody. So I know that's a bit of a rant, but I think people need to deny themselves as much as better themselves every day. Because that's how you better yourself, is denial.
Yeah, and you've spoken a bit, obviously, about your relationship with God, and I'm just thinking, I've never seen you actually read any other book but the Bible. What's that like? What's that relationship for you? How does it kind of spill into your work side of things?
That's an interesting question. I think that's a topic I'd actually wanted to talk about, but I forgot. I've never fully read a book cover to cover, and I still haven't finished the Bible at all. But I would tend to lean more on the Bible when I don't understand something, even when it's technical, rather than a technical book. Because I think that we know the answer to everything. I think we overindulge in information with different courses, etc. And I think that we often know the answer, but we're often not at a high enough frequency of ourselves to access the answer that we know of. And so I think that
powerful,
it is. It's true though. I think I'd rather go to God when I don't know something, because I actually want to find myself, my true higher self, because I think that my own intuition and gut will tell me option A is better than option B. And if it turns out that option A is the wrong option, I will then learn, okay, well, my gut was actually telling me option B all along, but I really should have listened to it in a different way. And so in business, if you look at all the successful entrepreneurs, they kind of neglected a lot of the information they were told. And so I think with information, you need to acknowledge it, but not accept all of it. Whereas I think a lot of guys in the online space get information and they accept it as like the gospel, as truth. Whereas I know even from great mentors like Paul, who've told me certain things I'd listen to because I'm like, okay, that actually makes sense. It's a new perspective. But then certain things I'd be so hell bent on, and my intuition would be so strong to be like, thanks for the information, but I'm doing it this way anyway. Because you need to be able to make your own decisions. And the only reason I don't read any other books, which I'm getting more into now because I need to get more technical with my stuff, was because I think that we know the answer more than we give ourselves credit for. But I think we need to reach our 1% better of ourselves, our disciplined version of our own mind, to be able to access those answers and access our gut to know which step forward is the right step, because you can reassess then. Because if you're always relying on other people's answers, your decision making time takes too long, and that person will only know so much, will only be around to help you so much, and it won't be your product then. It'll be somebody else's product that you're building. But you need to build your own product with your own unique selling point. And if you don't make your own decisions, it'll be somebody else's product, not your own. So that's my angle on it.
Yeah, you said quite a lot of powerful things. I'm trying to think which one to kind of zone in on. But my experience with the Bible is that a lot of the times what you're reading in self-help books is kind of a watered down version of what you're going to find in the Bible.
Exactly.
You know?
That's what Jesus teaches.
And then I love what you said there about kind of not being at the correct frequency, because you can know of a Bible quote or a Bible verse or a story, but you can like completely not get it until the day you get to that like point of understanding where it just hits you and it's like,
that's
it
why
was
when
right
people
in
say
front of
like
me.
when they say like, oh, I've read the Bible for the fifth time, sixth time, and I'm still learning stuff. It's like because they're at a different level and they can understand the message of a story way more. And it's crazy how Jesus spoke in literal ways that can be identified based on your maturity in the Bible or in life in general. And so I think that's very, very interesting. I think you're dead right. I think we know the answer, and it's already thought, but it just comes down to our own decision making instead of relying on others' information.
Yeah.
Which is very, very important.
Yeah, I mean, I literally have enjoyed having this conversation. I'm trying to think what we haven't covered, because I know you are someone with a lot of accolades under your belt, especially at 21. But without revealing too much, I know people can learn a lot more from what you're up to in terms of your YouTube channel or your Instagram. I definitely have a good time checking out where you're headed to or what you're up to on Instagram and YouTube. But for the benefit of anyone watching, how can they engage with you? How can they get to know more about what you're up to with A Players Club, the merch? I love what you said about the merch earlier, about like kind of making it in such a way where people just have to find out where can they get that. You know?
I think it's, what did I say again? I was like said something along the lines of, you know, I didn't create the merch to directly benefit from it ROI wise. It was a branding play and a marketing play. It's my ad spend. Yet again, it's like if somebody wears it in an entrepreneurial based, and if somebody wears an entrepreneurial based hub like Marbella or like Copenhagen, etc., and people are like, that's a unique like top. Like where's that from? And odds are, if they like that sort of style I've seen, they probably looking to like represent. They probably know who Iman is. Like if they all the styles kind of align, and so I kind of built the hoodie in a certain way to where a certain ICP would be able to identify with it. They'd walk through the gym, they'd have the conversation with one of our members, and then they'd be like, oh, so like we've sold hoodies and we've nearly like broke even, barely making any profit on hoodies, but people have joined A Players and joined the membership from seeing the hoodie.
From a hoodie to becoming a member.
Yeah, and so it's like everything is branding if you want to do it, if you want to be patient enough to do it, because we could have went for more profit on the hoodies, but maybe that person wouldn't have bought it. And then that, like, so it's all long-term plays yet again and mindset. But yeah, people can find me if they want to, if they align with what I say on Instagram. James Galligan, 2 N's. The guy who has my Instagram, they actually talk. He's James. He follows me, but he just won't give me the handle. Another funny story is actually, I tried to last February or March. I wanted to buy A Players Club domain on GoDaddy.
Yeah.
And it was taken obviously, but I reached out to them and they were like, oh, $750 for the A Players Club domain. And right now I'm like, that sounds fucking great. Back then, I was like, I'd fuck all money, to be honest. I didn't have much money, and so, you know, I was like, I'll just get the aplayerclub.com. That's like, it's fine. It's the same thing. I get to save a bit of cash to, you know, keep myself comfortable to where I can give myself space to start this thing. And then a couple of months ago, I reached back out and I was like, you know, I love aplayerclub.com now because like I'll pay $750 easily. And they were like, yeah, it's 25K now.
Demand and supply.
And I was like, shit. I was like, that $750 would have paid off
And do you
nicely.
think they're basing that on perhaps they did their research and
Exactly.
they saw what
Like,
you've done? So
if they looked up A
you
Players Club
wanted, and they can see that you could probably.
They were like, beforehand, they would have looked it up and they would have been like, oh, it's non-existent. That'd be a startup, like, whatever, like $750. Then they look up our page on Instagram now and our current domain and see our current website and they're like, these guys have money, let's get it off them. Which I completely respect, but it's like, that's probably one of my biggest regrets is not spending that money earlier on something I believed in, but it was just a tactical decision back then, just cash flow wise.
And do you think James Galligan on Instagram is also kind of holding back until the day he
he can cash in.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've had the conversation. I've offered him like good money multiple times, and he likes some of my stuff and he follows me. I don't know. Like he doesn't post on his. I don't know why he wants to keep it, to be honest. But whatever. Like I don't think it's it's that big of a deal. I was gonna get myself Gally, Gally, but I don't know. No one really calls me that in the online space. It's a thing from back home. So.
So you're James Galligan with 2 N's on Instagram and then on YouTube.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I love your YouTube videos, just by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
They're we actually used to do more views when we only posted once every 2 weeks per video, and now it's actually like gone down a little bit. And my thinking for that is the psychology behind people. I feel is like the less someone talks, the more they want to listen, and so I feel like it's a barrier. It's like a no man's land you have to push through, and content is post so rarely that when you post, everyone's like, yes, he posts. Then it's like you have to. That'll only be your initial audience because they'll watch and they'll watch and they'll watch. But if you don't do the volume at some stage, it's very, very hard to acquire new eyes. And so like even though I've grown on followers on Instagram, grown on subscribers on YouTube, the watching has gone down. But I'm just like trying to push past that point to where the views are lower now.
Yeah.
Like some videos might get like 500 views to 600. Vlogs get like 1,000 plus. But I'm not too attached to it. I hope it pays off. Maybe looking back on this video, I might have more subscribers and watchers. But I think if you just keep providing the same value over time, and people align with it, it'll just spread when you're ready.
Yeah.
Whenever the person's ready for the. Because even if I got 100,000 subscribers tomorrow, I probably wouldn't know what to do with it anyway. So whenever it comes, it comes.
Sell a couple of hoodies, push them
Maybe more hoodies, yeah. Maybe more hoodies. We'll see. But yeah, some good ideas in the pipeline. So I think whenever it's ready, it's gonna. Whenever the man upstairs wants me to win, it'll come. I'll just be patient till then.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I couldn't have asked for a better episode 1
Hey.
guest.
Thanks, bro.
It's been nothing but phenomenal to kind of watch your journey in the online space as an individual and like with what you've been building.
Yeah.
And I think your story very much will hit home to many viewers who are particularly South African based, because much like I said, we have quite a lot in common with
Yeah.
Irish people.
Yeah.
But with that said, I mean, I really hope it will motivate and inspire a lot of people to kind of take the step and put themselves out there and get involved in the online space.
Yeah, especially South Africans, like you guys should be inspired because you have great accents, great energy, and the lucky thing that you have is that you don't need a lot of cash to live a good life. And so, like I wish more South Africans were involved in sales because I see many big online guys going for more South African people nowadays. So there's definitely opportunity. There's always opportunity. You just need to be in a place or surrounded by people to find it. So
I'm definitely going to clip that and make that into an ad.
yeah, do. On commission.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Perfect,
James.
bro. I appreciate it, and I hope everyone enjoyed.